Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to a slightly delayed Holy Saturday here from my home this morning, not at the campus of Word of Life. Um, it is the day of waiting. We've been on this journey for several days now, and it seems as though that it's been quite an adventure since the beginning of Palm Sunday, last Sunday, and we finally arrived at the silence of Holy Saturday. We've been through so much of the depth of Jesus' story that it's telling. We see the rhythms again and again and again of retreating by night to Bethany to escape the danger of the city of Jerusalem that was stirring with anger and violence and expectation and excitement, fear. I mean, there's just so many different emotions that was happening in the city of Jerusalem at that time that it's hard for us to comprehend. Jesus would come out during the day and he would begin to preach and teach, especially on what we called Holy Monday and Holy Tuesday, the confrontation of the system as well as the pushback of the system. And then we move through the plot of Judas and what was stirring in his own heart, what happens inside of our own mind where the decisions are made. And then we move on into Thursday. Thursday is where the Holy Commandment was given to love one another as I've loved you. This is how all men will know that you're my disciples. And yesterday was Good Friday. And I hear the questions all the time. How could anything be good out of Good Friday? Well, I'll say this to you, that Friday is good, not because of what happened to Jesus, not necessarily because of the suffering, not because of the beatings, not necessarily because of the torture, the crucifixion, but it's that God so chose to enter into our death, enter into our pain, enter into the darkest of the human element. And as he entered into that darkness of the human element, he began to participate in what it truly means to be human, even in life as well as in death. And so we find a God who's not distant, and we find a God who is not disconnected, and we find a God who is not out there somewhere, but is with humanity, experiencing humanity's pain, humanity's suffering, humanity's the weight of what it means to be human. And Jesus joins us in that. And so today, as you kind of look around in the background, there is no sanctuary today. There's no Elijah who's helping us lead the worship this morning. There is no persons in the sanctuary to join us in the moment. It's almost as if every person has to come to grips with the fact that we're here together in this moment. Individual, not private, but individual. And here we are in the waiting. And if any of us are honest, the waiting is not something that any of us would choose. But that's what we find with Saturday, because now the cross has been lifted. The final words have been spoken that it's finished. And now everything is quiet. Everything is just dead, dark, and still, and there is nothing. And if we went together within the lectionary readings to the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 27, Matthew tells us that Jesus is taken down from the cross. He's wrapped in linen and he's placed into a borrowed tomb. and a stone is rolled in front of the door. And that's it. It's kind of like right now. I mean, there's no sanctuary with music and lighting and community. It's no music, no miracles, no teaching, no community, no visible moment to experience, just silence. And that's what Holy Saturday is. And that's what we like to skip, is because there's an awkwardness to the silence. And we all know that. We believe that we think too much. We have too much to worry about in the silence. But what happens is that we would rather, in light of Holy Week, we would rather move from Friday directly to Sunday, to the celebration, from sorrow to excitement again, to victory. But there is a day in between, and that is the Holy Saturday, a day where nothing seems to be happening whatsoever in the natural as we look around. But in the lectionary readings today, there's Job. Unique that Job is in the lectionary readings for today. But Job says, if a mortal dies, shall he live again? And all the days of my service, I would wait. And that's the posture again of Holy Saturday, is waiting, not knowing, not seeing, not understanding, not having the answers. Because on the outside, when we look around in the natural, everything looks like as though it's over. And yet there's something that is still happening, hidden, unseen. And that's the mystery of God. And that's how God often operates in our lives, is even when it doesn't look like things are moving or things are advancing or things are happening, God is always at work in the dark, in the waiting, in the in-between, the liminal space is what I would like to say. And see, the early church determined that, and would later say that Christ descended into the dead. That's what our creeds say, is that Christ descended into the dead. He descended into hell. He descended into death itself, not to escape it, not to even be tortured by death or hell, but ultimately to fill that space with his presence, so that there is no place in life or in death, in time and space or in eternity, that God has not filled himself with, so that no matter where you are, anywhere on the timeline, in life or in death, that God will not meet you there. That's the reason why death doesn't have the last say. That death is not something to be afraid of. Death is something where I believe that when we close our eyes, the first person that we will encounter on the other side of death is the one who filled death with himself, and that is the living Christ. He descended into the dead. He descended into hell itself to fill hell and death with itself, with himself, so that it could be conquered. Death, hell, and the grave are conquered today because of what Jesus did. And sometimes it feels like we know a lot about Holy Saturday moments, the waiting, the silence of it all in our own lives. We know what it's like to live in that. Prayers sometimes don't even feel like they're being answered or heard, or understood. Often situations that feel unresolved in our relationships, our families, maybe even our workspaces, our church relationships, moments where God feels distant and feels as though that he's somewhere out there, that he's not close to us. And I think there's a temptation for us to believe that nothing's happening. Much like, again, today, I mean, just looks common. It's my screened-in porch where there is no laughs. There's no relationships. There's, again, no worship team, no worship pastor, really no liturgy to lead us by, no experience of camaraderie and community. It's much like that Holy Saturday where each individual was feeling the angst of what had happened throughout Holy Week and then what culminated in Good Friday, where life seems like it's over. But I will say this about Holy Saturday and the silence of it, that silence is not equivalent to absence. Just because things are silent doesn't mean there's absence, because waiting is not abandonment. God is still at work. God is still moving, even when we can't see it, even when we don't understand it. So today, as every other day of Holy Week, we don't rush by it. There's something to understand and something to see and something to know out of every experience of every day that we talk about in Holy Week. So let's allow Saturday to be a place where we sit with that tension of not knowing, as the early church did, the disciples, that we honor the silence. Sometimes it can spill over into what I've come to understand is contemplation and meditation, to where we just sit and we're present to the presence. And we allow the waiting to form us. Because I assure you that even throughout the waiting and the silence of Holy Saturday, there's one promise that I assure you is on the rise. And that is that resurrection is coming. Sunday is coming. What nobody saw coming because they thought it was over is on the cusp. Man, there's this cool breeze in the air this morning. Behind me is the dogwood tree. And every year, that dogwood tree blooms because it remembers. It knows that throughout the silence of the winter, when it seemed like everything was dormant and done, it knows when it approaches the time of Easter, the time of the resurrection. Creation knows. It knows. And it calls his name. It buds out as though its palms and its hands are reaching toward the heavens to exclaim, victory. Victory is here. Celebration is here. Life is here. There is life after death. There is resurrection hope. So I leave you with that today, that resurrection is here and resurrection is coming. Tomorrow is Sunday. And if you don't have a home church, we would love to have you at Word of Life Ministry at 3610 Galt Avenue North in Fort Payne, Alabama. We start at 10 a.m. And, our church, I was aggravating them last night that after our Good Friday service, that we went through the posture of Holy Week this week, and the liturgy has taught us the story, and we've been in step with it. We've walked with it. We've honored it. And yesterday was hard. Good Friday was hard. Our service last night was spectacular. It was wonderful. It was moving. It was deep. But I told them as we extinguished the Easter candle and we stood in the dark together in the silence. After that silence was broken, I told the church, I said, we've walked through the story and now here we are arriving at Resurrection Sunday in a couple of days. And I promise you, I'm a liturgy guy. I'm a story guy, but I'm also Pentecostal to the core. And I hope that we come ready to celebrate in a charismatic spirit Sunday morning with celebration. So I invite you to come join us. If you can't join us live, you can join us online. You can join us right back here at our YouTube page. We'll launch somewhere just shortly before 10. And you can find us and celebrate Easter with us. So we bless you in the name of Jesus. We know that resurrection's coming. It's not yet. But my encouragement to you is stay here. Stay here in the waiting. Weeping may endure for the night, but joy does come in the morning. So, ladies and gentlemen, today, no communion, no worship today, no prayers, just simply the waiting. So tomorrow. I bless you today. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. Go in peace, and we'll see you Easter Sunday morning. God bless. Have a great rest of your day. Blessings.